Hello, everyone. I just wanted to go live and live stream the council meeting taking place in Halton Hills today. So way to go, Halton Hills. Looks like there's 4 delegates lined up to speak. They just opened up the meeting. The mayor recognized that quite a few people are in attendance and thanked them for coming on this beautiful summer's day. So let's have a look. They're just finishing up O Canada. And we can go from there. Sound is not great. Let me know how the sound is for you in the chat.
And we begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest? I've noted none, thank you. Are there any announcements or business or emergency matters that any members of council want to raise? Councillor Albano.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I have an announcement. I would like to bring it to your attention the annual Terry Fox Run.
Okay, so I'm just going to turn it down there for a minute and talk over him while they do some of this. Sound is good? Awesome. Yeah, it's kind of breaking up a little bit on my end. So essentially in Halton Hills, they are putting forward a new transportation plan, but the transportation plan is has a new name. It's called the Mobility Plan, and that's because in the plan they are looking at I haven't read the exact wording, so I don't want to jump to extremes and say phasing out private vehicle ownership, but it does talk about reducing the amount of private vehicle ownership and changing the word from transportation to mobility. So they're bringing in more bicycle lanes, more pedestrian walking paths, and so on. So I did post a little video on my page with a couple of the councillors from the last meeting speaking out and saying that, when it comes to the plan talks about affordability, most people are lucky just to be able to afford a vehicle in our society, let alone an EV vehicle, which is far more expensive. So when we're talking about affordability, that's something we want to consider. And another councillor challenged the mayor because she said that there's nothing in the plan about phasing out private vehicles, and he said no, it's actually right here in the plan. So I'm excited to watch this, and it's really good to watch councillors across the country speaking out against us. So if you want to watch along with me, it might be a long meeting. Right away I'll show you the agenda. So the 4 delegates are the first to go once they get through this initial introductory phase of the council meeting. So let's just have a look at their agenda here, and I'll show you. So they just sang O Canada. They did the land acknowledgement, disclosures of pecuniary interests and conflicts of interest, and then if there's any other announcements or emergency matters, they'll do that, and then they'll adopt the items from the previous council meeting. And you can see there, if you'd like to read the report, it's in the description, the link to this page of this live stream, and you can read that. Transportation and Public Works report, I believe, is the one that we're looking at. Yes, regarding the Mobility Master Plan draft. And then you'll see that they'll approve the minutes from previous meetings. And then we have 5 presenters, it looks like now, which is great. So Mary Kelly, Heather Smith, Barry Allan, Cathy Halovanic, and Sam LeBrier. So we'll watch those together, and then at some point later on in the meeting, there should be a discussion from council on the mobility master plan. So let me just make sure we can see where that will come up. Yeah, so after all their delegations and presentations, then they'll have an opportunity for the councillors to discuss the plan. Okay. So can everyone still hear?
Georgetown Agricultural Society. So this year, lots of entertainment.
It's kind of slowing down and frozen.
As usual, there will be different groups with classic rock, country, East Coast music, and there'll be 3 tribute bands this year. One for the Doobie Brothers.
So for interest, I'll share a different screen for a minute and show you the councillors' comments last time this was brought forward.
Derby. Sunday all day will be.
And just pull that up. Just a short clip of the councillors there. Okay, great. So check out how these councillors responded last time this was brought forward.
I'm hearing here that people say there's no attack on cars, but I mean, clearly there is. I think we have a lot of things. I heard the word affordability, because not everybody can afford cars. Well, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of people cannot afford what everybody is talking about, electric cars. Electric cars are so ridiculously overpriced, and yet we're sitting here now talking about affordability on cars. People can afford cars, they can't afford electric cars. So there's a lot more to be talking about here. To be spending this kind of money, I think we first need to take out the reference, and it was, actually it was Councillor Brzezinski that said it, so it's on page 7. To encourage the alternate forms. If we're going to engage the public, let's take away this preconceived notion that the cars need to stop. I can't support this either. I'm hearing the conversation all around. There's a lot of great points, but I think more work needs to be done on that. So I will not be supporting it. Thank you.
They say to encourage alternative forms of transportation, such as walking, cycling, public transit, and reduce dependency on passenger vehicles and increase the modal share of public transit and active transportation. So how you can say that this plan does not contain those things, I don't understand. So if the vision and values of this plan as written were what the acting CAO had put forward and suggested, then I would have no problem with this. But that's not the case. It says this, and so I can't support it.
Isn't that awesome to hear councillors say these kinds of things? Apparently 3 of them voted against it last time. So let's see if they've made any changes to it. And as we watch the delegations, obviously everyone's going to go in and do delegations differently. I haven't been in contact with the delegates from Halton Hills. Aside from just yesterday, I think I received an email and I was made aware that this was happening and had a quick look at it. And I wasn't able to send any feedback or anything like that on delegations, but a lot of good information is floating around. And let's hope that people are starting to take this information, these talking points, and bringing it forward. And as we watch the delegations, just appreciate the fact that people are willing to go in and start to speak up and learn from each and every experience that we watch and that we do on how we can make improvements, what was done really well, which could what could be improved, and we can all learn how to be better speakers and advocates in our communities, and just realizing that the counselors at that local level really do have the power to stop the elements of the international agenda that don't fit our community's best interests. So that's what I'm going to say to that. And I'm actually writing the national report right now, and several reports that need to be done to be referenced in that national report. So I'm going to be doing that while we watch the council meeting here. And of course, when the delegates come on, I'll come back and watch with everyone. So this will probably be a long live stream. Feel free to check back after if it goes a bit too long for you just watching the meetings. They intentionally make local council meetings boring the majority of the time and hide really important stuff in hours and hours of seemingly unimportant, uninteresting material. And just, our counselors basically go to these meetings and have to deal with thousands of pieces of paper in front of them and decide what words need to be changed, what they're willing to approve and adopt, and so on, right? So it really is a word game, and that's why I've been putting an emphasis on writing reports and doing it in a way that our local councils are used to seeing. So if you want to see more of that, you can subscribe for free for the Kickley Substack. That's kickley.substack.com. And really looking forward to pressing send on these reports that I'm doing. And when I do press send, it's not just going to you, it's going to all the counselors all across this country, all the MPs, all the MPPs and MLAs, all the senators, everyone is getting this. And once they get it, your job is to kind of follow up with your local counselors and say, did you receive this report? And then if they didn't, forward it to them again and just put the words in front of them, because with each report, I put recommendations. I'm putting resolutions that they can put in front of their councils to be put on the table, seconded and adopted, so that they can just get out of these programs. Okay? So much love, everyone. I don't want to miss this meeting. Let me go back and make sure, see where they're at. Okay, I need to share this.
From the delegations, and then we will bring forward that mobility master plan discussion, and then we will move into resolutions and confirmation of minutes and so forth, just so that we're not.
Please let me know that you can hear her. It's very quiet on my end.
Part of that conversation, and they don't wish to stay. So could I have a motion to that effect, that we move item 7 and and so forth forward? Councillor Hilson, all in favor?
So what she's doing is she's changing the agenda.
So as I said, we do have,
because the room is full,
5 individuals who have indicated that they wish to come and speak to council.
So they're going to do the 5 delegations, and then they're going to discuss the master plan right away. So that's great.
We are reviewing this afternoon. And so I just want to give you some notes before we get started. For any of you who haven't come to council and delegated before, you will come to the center podium and give your name and address, please. And there will be 5 minutes that you have to speak. Because there are several people wishing to speak, and we have a fairly hefty agenda today, 5 minutes is the maximum that you will be allowed, and we will be quite rigorous with that time limit. And you will.
That is in
actually see
Halton
it
Hills, Ontario,
here, or there.
David.
If, in order to see where you are in your time.
Just west of
I'd also like
Mississauga.
to mention that delegates are only here to speak on a subject matter that is on the agenda today, and that is the Mobility Master Plan, okay? We are looking at the terms of reference. This is a study that is being proposed. And so I would ask you to ensure that your subject matter, whatever you're talking about, makes direct reference to that plan, okay? And if your comments veer away from that, again, because of time and because we're focused on this agenda item, I will indicate that you're straying off topic and ask you to please come back to the plan and make reference specifically to it. I also want to let you know that this will not be a debate at this particular time. This is not a public meeting. You are making a presentation. And so what we're interested in hearing from you is your ideas, if there is a particular concern you have, and if there is an action that you wish council to take, this is when you will state it. Delegations will not ask councillors questions. They will not ask questions of staff. They will not, as I said, engage in debate. Now, it might be after your presentation that councillors will choose to ask you a question. And so I would ask you to answer it in as concise a way as you possibly can, and then we'll move on to the next. So I just wanted to give you that framework for how the delegations work, and that framework is in order to keep us moving along, to keep us on topic, and to ensure that you have the opportunity to say the things that are important to you, and in a timely way. Okay, so what I'm going to do is identify the people who the clerk has let us know are interested in making their presentations to council. And first up, I have Mary Kelly, and I'm wondering if you would come forward. Are you here? And would you please come forward to the podium and tell us what you want to share?
Yes, first of all, do we have a plug-in here for a computer? Sir? And I just have a quick question. When does the 5 minutes start? As soon as I open my mouth, or then I don't have to say my name, right? Do I have to, because that's going to cut into my time. And
Yes, please give us your name and address.
so could you start the clock after I do that?
Sure.
Okay, wonderful. My name is Mary Kelly, and I live at 10600 8th line in Georgetown. In 1901, Einstein said, "A foolish faith in authority is the worst enemy of the truth." I am Mary Kelly. I am a living, breathing woman of the earth who has lived in Georgetown for 52 years. Georgetown has remained a unique rural town and a wonderful place to live. I love Georgetown. But things are changing. I was compelled to speak today after intensely studying the draft of the Town of Halton Hills Transportation Master Plan and what I believe to be a proposed name change, the Town of Halton Hills Mobility Master Plan. To all those of you who were charged with the responsibility and accountability, the duty of crafting said proposal, I mean no disrespect. I come from a place of good intent on the side of truth and honesty, integrity and morality, the side of justice and courage that defends our God-given rights and the safety of our brethren. I focus on the results of their efforts, the outcome, said draft. But before I do, I just want to comment that throughout this journey, I have seen many changes, and those changes and authorities have been wrong. I could name them, but perhaps you will say I am digressing. So I will go to the actual comments on the draft. With respect to the outcome of the draft up for ratification, I found little evidence of clarity. I found no evidence of transparency. I found no evidence to justify the $500,000 expenditure, especially since alternatives exist. I found no evidence that this document was scrutinized word by word, sentence by sentence, meaning by meaning, and inference by inference to ensure clarity and transparency. I found no evidence to explain or justify the major name change from Transportation Master Plan to Mobility. And they have totally different meanings. This change is material cause enough not to ratify the draft. I found evidence of cut and paste. I found evidence of double talk. I found evidence of nonsensical word combinations. I found evidence of incomplete sentences, leaving the meaning opened to interpretation. I found implications, inferences to potentially restricting people and transportation mobility and the right of way. I found language that could lead to potential fines and penalties for non-compliance. I found language that has the potential to open the door to 15-minute smart cities and the serious harm the technologies will cause. 2 years ago, the UN targeted mobility in their global plan as a means to combat greenhouse gas emissions. And here that same word not only appears countless number of times in the draft, but is the star of the show, evidenced by the said name change to Master Plan Mobility. In my opinion, this document has been drafted with great care to use words, confusing combination of words, and language throughout the document that are open-ended, leaving much to the imagination. And that, in my opinion, our town is not innovative as they claim. The strategic plan, their strategic plan 2019 to 22 quotes that they embrace the United Nations global challenges. I applaud the councillors Darcy Keene, Joseph Rosinski, and Ron Norris, who did the work and questioned the readiness of this draft. They demonstrated that they do not have a foolish faith in authority. And I caution that if this document opens up the route to 15-minute cities, every single tower, every single connection to the wireless of that tower will harm the people of Georgetown through 5G, radiation poisoning, or electromagnetic pollution. And every tower will cause harm at every minute. I ask that you consider your vote today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kelly. Are there any members of council who have a question of the delegation? Councillor Albano?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mary.
Yes.
Can you clarify, you stated in the presentation that the master plan restricts people's mobility. What do you mean by that?
If I may, I really don't want to go into the intensive study that I did to come up with those.
Hold on a minute. You made that presentation. I'm
Yes.
asking you the question.
Yes.
And as the mayor said, you'd be kindly to answer the question for me if you could, please.
And what was your question?
The question was, you made a statement that the mobility master plan restricts people's mobility.
I said it has the potential to restrict mobility. There are terms of use in the document. It's that for mobility that are going to question time of day, week of day. There's going to be stoppages before moving into different areas and so on. Does that satisfy your question?
No, it doesn't, because I read the report and there is no specific timelines or anything like that that would restrict people's mobility.
if I go back to my words, I said potentially. I did not say they did. And I also said that it's open to interpretation. So that's what we're doing here, and I don't think it serves the purpose for the town.
All right, thank you very much.
She did a really good presentation.
Okay, Councillor Ingalls.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Ms. Kelly. Mayor, you talked about, you sort of referenced this as the Halton Hills Mobility Master Plan. Am I correct in saying that?
I referenced it because the draft says the Transportation Master Plan, but they name it Mobility Master Plan, and they say it's the former Transportation Plan.
Okay, now what we're voting on here is the terms of reference to develop that plan. Are you aware of that?
I'm aware that all the information in there is going to develop the plan, and I'm stating that the information as it appears in the draft has opened up cause for concern for me and obviously other people. And if anything I have said here today broadens those terms of reference or your reference to the terms of reference, then that would be a good result.
Okay, there will be time, no matter what happens here today, the plan to be developed with public input. Are you aware of that?
Yes, but I also am aware that if it's so open-ended, as I suggested, that you need a team of lawyers to interpret the meaning of it. And so I don't see how a group of consultants, if you move forward with that draft, could even interpret what you want in the end. And in my opinion, to be wasting $500,000, which is a lot of money, to just do a whole new transportation master plan. Why can't you just take the transportation master plan, find out what revisions you want, and then revise the transportation master plan? The other thing too is if you ratify this today, you're going to vote on the new name Mobility Master Plan, which is cause enough not to ratify it. It sets up a whole new frame of reference for transportation in our town.
Okay, thank you.
Good answer.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kelly.
Thank you.
Is Heather Smith in the gallery? Ma'am, would you please come up?
I just wanted to point out when you're asked for your
I'm Heather
address,
Smith. I live at 96 James Young Drive in Georgetown.
if you don't feel comfortable giving your address,
On
Give
Tuesday,
your
August
ward.
20th, I submitted a request to speak to the mayor and council on concerns that I have about the content of an RFP, which is request for proposal for a new transportation master plan. My goal was to play a public video that would link language that's used in the draft to concepts of smart cities. Smart meaning surveillance, monitoring, analysis, reporting, and technology. I was advised that I could not present this video as per the CAO, mayor, and clerk, as they judged my freedom of expression as, I quote, not relevant, unquote. Since there was no mention of a 15-minute city in the document, and it's true, there's no mention of a 15-minute city in your document.
I don't know what just happened there. She was going to share Joel's video. I don't know where it just went. Shit. Okay, I got it. It just won't show the video for some reason.
Again, before we ever engage a consulting firm. For this reason alone, the draft should not be ratified. I draw your attention to task 5 of the draft
I don't know where the
plan,
video went.
as it talks about our current pilot smart commute program.
Hopefully you can hear her.
We've just lost our internet. So I'm, we are broadcasting this, and it's important that we have the ability to do that. So I'm just, Madam Clerk. could
It
you
is
give us
important
an
that they have
addition?
the ability
We
to
don't want- we don't
broadcast.
want
So apparently they just
anyone
lost their
to hear
internet
what you're
when she
saying.
brought up
No,
Joel
Madam Mayor, I
Sussman's
think we're gonna have
speech.
to take a 5-minute recess so we can get the system rebooted.
Interesting.
We just lost everything, so in the middle of the live stream.
Can you hear
Recess.
them talking?
Stay tuned, please. Yes, thanks very much.
Stay
We'll just wait
tuned,
for 5
everyone.
minutes.
Oh, we get a 5-minute break. So interesting. Hi, Mark. Yes, Rhonda, how convenient. It was so weird because all of a sudden it just went blank and then we could hear them, but we couldn't see them. Yeah, the council in Halton Hills lost their video, it seems, and they need 5 minutes. I'm wondering what I can share. I'm actually supposed to be doing something else right now. Oh, there they go. I'm sure everyone here has been watching Shadow Davis. He's going to have Lisa Robinson, the counselor from Pickering, on tonight. So tune into that. I'm going to be at the pig roast in Simcoe County on September 8th. They are opening a Simcoe chapter of the Ontario Landowners Association. I will do a post about that with all the details, and hopefully, and I'll be speaking there along with a whole bunch of other great speakers. So come out on September 8th. I think that you can bring your RV, your tent, you can camp there, and we'll be launching the Kickley campaign in Simcoe County. We're still doing a bunch of planning work there and had a great meeting with them today. What was the video she was referring to? Great question, Linda. If anyone could post Joel Sussman's video to the council in Aurora on 15-Minute Cities. It is on the Kickley webpage here. Maybe I could play that while we're waiting, hey? Here we go. There we go. Hold on. Yes, share this tab instead. I just don't want to miss them when they do start again. I have a lot of tabs open. Okay, here we go.
Restructuring of Canadian mayors and municipalities under the auspices of the United Nations began in 1992. PM Mulrooney signed Canada onto UN Agenda 21. Canada thus became a UN member nation state. 178 countries signed on, lured by the promise of big money to go green. By 2000, countries, including Canada, were being governed by directions of the UN, G7, G20, World Economic Forum, and World Health Organization, to name some. Every organization named is a foreign-based NGO, non-governmental organization, and every member of all these organizations is unelected. Parliamentary procedures for law changes weren't followed. In 1994, a municipal primer was issued to all local towns outlining how they were to restructure their governments. Though the municipal primer was a non-binding agreement, all towns adopted it. Our public officials, the mayor and councillors of that day, were partnered with a private corporation, the Corporation of the Town of Aurora, who appointed a chief administrative officer who helped implement the global agenda instead of a local one. The International Council on Local and Environmental Issues, ICLEI, became the main source of consultation to push and fund the global agenda. We remind you that the World Economic Forum and the United Nations signed a strategic partnership framework in 2019 to jointly accelerate the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. This is the same World Economic Forum whose chairman, Klaus Schwab, famously declared, "You will own nothing and be happy." This is the same Klaus Schwab who, referring to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, boasted, "We have penetrated more than half of his cabinet." We would ask Mayor Maracas and the councillors, why should the citizens of Aurora bow down to the intrusive dictates of an unelected foreign entity? The fact is we should not, and we will not. What, you ask, does any of this have to do with 15-minute smart cities? Absolutely everything. SMART, S for surveillance, M for monitoring, A for analysis, R for reporting, and T for technology. Technology News editor Patrick Wood, 50 years of experience and expertise on technocracy, wrote, "The 15-minute city is a cover for data collection bonanza for technocrats who design and operate them. Cities designed for maximum efficiency always reveal technocrat thinking that efficiency itself is the goal. Maximum surveillance allows for maximum control to achieve even more efficiency." At its very root, this mechanistic thinking is anti-human. The 15-minute city narrative seeks to fool you in the guise of saving the planet, keeping you safe, and delivering convenience. It's actually the gateway to digital IDs and CBDC, central bank digital currencies. CBDCs allow bankers and/or governments to freeze your bank account because you happen to peacefully and lawfully protest and express your disagreement with government policy. Anyone remember the truckers' convoy in Ottawa, February 22, when the Government of Canada invoked the Emergencies Act and froze the private bank accounts of law-abiding citizens? 15-minute cities are wolves in sheep's clothing. Don't believe the countless stories spewing forth from the 24/7 basis from the elitist captured mainstream media, all claiming to have your best interest at heart. We have been burned too many times. In reality, 24/7 surveillance through the Internet of Things inside your home, 5G and LED streetlights outside, monitoring and tracking and recording everything. Implementation of exclusion zones and geofencing to restrict movement and travel. Ability to control behaviors through military-directed energy technologies. Property and car ownership to be outlawed. Evictions from farms and rural areas to gather people into cities. Digital passports being promulgated by the UN, World Economic Forum, and the World Health Organization are in the final stages of planning and implementation. They are tied to social credit score, which is determined by compliance to government directives. These passports control all access and all aspects of life. Digital currency is being implemented to end cash and monitor all your spending. Your digital currency will be turned off or on depending on your compliance score. UBI Universal Basic Income is a state-controlled allowance forcing compliance by restricting access to food, money, services, and education. All of the above will enable climate lockdowns to be implemented easily, arbitrarily, and indefinitely. The real agenda of 15-minute smart cities is to monitor and control everyone and everything. In summary, in the coming days, Council will receive an electronic info packet which will contain the text of this delegation and other items. We, the citizens of Aurora, wish to enter into a meaningful, respectful dialogue with our elected members of Council on this complex, important issue. A key framework of that dialogue is a list of questions posed to Council. Can Council explicitly guarantee that citizens will remain free to travel as is their right under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms? Can Council guarantee not to restrict access to essential services, medical care, bank accounts, government pensions, utilities? Most importantly, we, the citizens of Aurora, need to have the conversation with Council about exiting their non-binding agreement with the private for-profit entity known as the Corporation of the Town of Aurora. We need to turn back the page to a simpler time when open, transparent municipal government serving its citizens and working in their best interests ruled the day. We are your equal partners on this journey. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh
I just
my
wanted
goodness.
to thank you for bringing that to our attention. I'm not prepared to say anything other than it was intriguing.
So I'm just going to pause for a minute and check on the live stream from Halton Hills. It's still down, but that was Joel Sussman, and him and his wife, Margaret, let me just change the view for a minute, worked really hard on, they do everything together, and he is a very good speaker. He is essentially a wordsmith, and I love the comment, Errol. There's nothing like laying it right on the line. My goodness, back this guy up, right? Absolutely. And the way he delivered it was, there's an art to delivering. Sometimes you need to really speak to the audience and to channel the importance of your message in a way that it can be received by the counselors. So, and you can see by the counselors' reactions that they were open to receive it. They were intrigued. And of course, showing up with 100 people who all sat very respectfully throughout that presentation makes a big impact. It changes the room. It shifts the room. We're bringing the people back into these chambers where you saw how big that chamber is. That chamber normally has 5 or 10 people in it at most, right? But it's built for 100. So we want to fill our rooms again. Even if you're not there to speak on an item right away, start showing up, because that alone is going to get your counselors to be on their best behavior and to start representing the people that they serve. There's nothing like having eyes on your counselors to make them behave in a way and make decisions that are in the best interests of the people. Does that make sense? So I will continue sharing that. Hopefully Halton Hills gets their live stream up. It's still dead. Maybe I will message Mary and see what's going on there. And I'll let you watch the counselor's reaction from Aurora last September. So this was, Joel's was one of the first delegations after the Peterborough delegations as well. I'm just going to change the view, and I'm going to disappear for a minute and see what's going on in Halton Hills.
I really want to learn more, and I'm open to understanding the impact and try to do what's best for Aurora. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Sure. Thank you so much for coming and delegating today with passion. And obviously you have you've filled the chambers quite a bit in support of this. And I agree that, people want to feel they can roam free with their democracy and their rights and not feel that they're being tracked and surveillance at all times. And definitely I do want to learn more. And yes, you can ask questions and we can sit down and meet. I'm more than happy to have this conversation with you. In fact, I did actually have some conversations, funnily enough, with staff just last week about data privacy and the fact that smart technology is coming in different forms and what that looks like. And I really do hope that I can formulate some motion that will help protect our data privacy in here, because I don't want us to have a system in place where our privacy has already been at risk, or our privacy has already been compromised to that point of, to your point, of surveillancing. And I don't think the town of Aurora at all supports wanting to have that. But it's knowing and understanding that those privacy policies are in place, so we are safe and we do have that freedom to live and prosper in our own community without feeling like we were being judged or a social credit score. So happy to reach out and have the conversation.
I also would like to find out more about this. I know very little, and I appreciate all the information that's been brought forward and the sentiments of the two counselors who have spoken. And Mr. Sussman, good to see you again.
Representative Jones, it's always an honor to have you on the show. Look, I was looking forward to hearing from you as well as the other Tennessee 3, and I know that you guys were not able.
Okay, well, so Joel Sussman's amazing speech is what the delegate from Halton Hills was referencing when their internet happened to go down. I will post a link to Joel Sussman's speech in in our chat, so feel free to share that. I think it has received, hopefully you can hear me. I didn't mute myself, good. I think it's received, let me see, on the Kickley channel, 42,000 views. So really good to share that around. Copy that link. Halton Hills is still down. I can show you that page, what it looks like. You can see it's just kind of ticking in the time there. So I'm not quite sure what to do. I don't want to leave you all hanging. And I have a lot of writing to do myself. But you're all just scrolling on Facebook anyway, so how is everyone? Feel free to let me know how your weekend was, everyone. I guess next week is a long weekend. Hope everyone had fun. See if I can get a message through to them in Halton Hills. See what's happening. Okay, so there's also a group in Oxford County that I've been working with, Roxlana Taus, and she's been working on acquiring the motion down there. There's quite a few townships that have signed up, I think 8 in that area, with Woodstock being the city in the middle of it. So get in touch with Roxlana Taus. We'll probably post that on Kickley Canada's Facebook page. So make sure that you're part of the Kickley Canada Facebook page. It's a good group. There's provincial group chats there. So people are coming together, finding interested neighbors that are interested in taking this on. David, I saw that you said Kickley is also in Muskoka. Excellent. Muskoka really needs people doing the Kickley initiative up there. I am working on this report, and it's a big piece of the information that I want to share nationwide. And I have a couple presentations that I want to do on a regular basis so that we can all kind of get on the same page and start moving through these steps together. But without that report being done, a lot of the steps are dependent on having a solid report that we can all point to when it comes to undoing the UN directive program regarding the Partners for Climate Protection program, which is a key program that is bringing in all these climate action plans. So I will be doing our Zoom meetings once I'm prepared to move forward with that. And essentially, I'm trying to write something that would normally take a year in a short period of time. So appreciate everyone's patience with me, not necessarily being able to get back to everyone as much as I'd like to, but just keep following the work, finding the motions. All the information to find and acquire the motions is posted on the pages, on the Substacks, and so on. So just keep educating yourselves and watching these delegations, learning from them, and following the results. So let's see here. Halton Hills is still not on. I'm really glad, Mark, that the event this weekend was amazing at Johnny's Hip Camp in Bancroft. I'm sorry I missed it. Yes, people feel free to leave and do what you need to do. I might just put it on the full screen and leave it going here as well. I'm going to do some work on a report. One of the foundational reports to go along with it is a history of sustainable development and how it came about, and how I just really want to put before the councillors in a polite and professional way the origins of sustainable development. So from the Club of Rome to the Swedish government initiating the Stockholm Conference, to the Brundtland Commission, to the founding of ICLEI at the UN, to ICLEI and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities drafting Agenda 21, to Rio de Janeiro and all the documents and committees that came forth from that, moving forward into ICLEI's work in the 21st century, and showing how the Partners for Climate Protection program from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and ICLEI is now affecting our local municipalities, and the, you know, what is sustainable development, you know, according to its definition, and how that is directly referencing the need to take public control over private land, and as well as this idea of saving the land and resources for future generations without impoverishing the current generation, and then pointing out how after 30 years that we are seeing direct results, negative impacts on the current generation, and that needs to be put into balance. That needs to be put before our municipal councillors across the country, that they, whether they know it or not, they are the ones that are implementing the United Nations global sustainable development goals and agenda, and they are doing it voluntarily, and they have an option to withdraw from these programs and to critique them. And we want to give them the information that they need to properly critique these programs. And along with that, really clear recommendations and resolutions that they can put before their councils to withdraw from these programs and do better. Do better. We Canadians can do better. And we can also do better environmental stewardship programs that are designed by the people locally than the United Nations can with that top-down program that it continues to put on our councils. So we're kind of covering all the bases and just opening the door for our councillors and elected officials to walk through and move forward. Move our country forward in a better way. We don't have to accept Agenda 2030 and Agenda 2050 and Agenda 21. We can hit the pause button, guys. It's just like anything in life. You are never stuck in a situation. You can always choose something completely different and then aim towards that. And when you focus your attention on that and move forward, you create a new reality for yourself. So we can do that all across our country. And it really helps to see what it is that we're up against. And that's what we're doing with these reports. So make sure you're subscribed to kickley.substack.com for the official reports, and gather2030.substack.com for the internal behind the scenes information sharing. Sometimes I'll put forward draft reports and get your feedback on that. And we can make it a collective project that way. So it's not just me doing it. It's everyone together submitting our feedback to make the best information possible to share with our elected officials. Oh, looks like it's starting to move here. Okay. We got action. All right, guys. So the meeting in Halton Hills is starting again by the looks of it. We are in the middle of the second out of 5 speakers that are speaking against the mobility plan. It was once the transportation plan for Halton Hills area, and they're changing the name to a mobility plan, master plan. Couple great speakers so far. Thank you, Leanne, for joining us. Have fun at work. Wanda, thank you for joining us. Oh, David, you meant that ICLEI is up in Muskoka. Yes, ICLEI is definitely up in Muskoka. I've seen your environmental committee report. They are definitely targeting your mobility and aiming for net zero by 2050. And spending a lot of money to do it. Have fun with your grandson, Linda. Sounds nice. Okay, for those just joining us, we're just waiting for the meeting to start in Halton Hills. They are, their internet went down halfway through the second delegate who was bringing forward some really important information. And if you want to watch that, you can catch the replay. And there they go. Exciting times. They got a full room, a full house. At the beginning, the mayor was like, wow, thank you all for coming. All right, let's let her start.
Is our techie ready? Well, we have liftoff. We our systems are all back together again. Thank you very much to the clerk's office and our IT staff. We did go offline for a while. Not sure just exactly why, but we are now broadcasting again. We're live streaming, and anybody in the later part of the agenda, you can actually make your presentations by PowerPoint. And so now we will go back to you, Ms. Smith. And if you want to start again, you're welcome to do that. Or if you want to, we had you in at the 2 minutes, 50 seconds mark, but whatever you feel comfortable with.
I think it'd be fair to start from the beginning.
Sure. Okay, go ahead.
I'm still Heather Smith. I live at 96 James Young Drive, Georgetown. On Tuesday, August 20th, I submitted a request to speak to the mayor and council on concerns that I have about the content of an RFP, request for proposal, for a new transportation master plan. My goal was to play a public video that I would link, it links language in the draft to the concept of a smart city. SMART is an acronym for surveillance, monitoring, analysis, reporting, and technology. I was also advised that I could not present the video as per the CAO, mayor, and clerk, as they judged my freedom of expression, and I quote, not relevant, unquote. Since there was no mention of 15-minute cities in their document, and there is no mention of 15-minute cities in this draft, I'll assure you that. It's my opinion that the video is extremely relevant. The community needs assurance which should be entered into public record that if this draft is approved, it will not morph Halton Hills into a 15-minute smart city. The wording in the draft does not set a clear direction. The draft raises too many questions. For this reason alone, the draft should not be ratified. I draw your attention to task 5 of the draft plan as it talks about our current pilot smart commute program. And I quote, besides mode choices, it also refers to other mobility choices such as day of week, time of day, day of week, fossil fuel, energy consumption, etc., unquote. I wonder if this community will be subjected to mobility restrictions, fines, and penalties. As a result of the arbitrary decision to censor this video, please know that this is a public video, and I've got a link for those who are interested, but it's really easy to find. If anybody out there is interested in seeing what was censored, go to YouTube, type in Aurora 15-minute city speech. I really hope and pray for our community that this is not where the draft transportation plan takes us. Thank you for listening.
Are there any members of council who have a question of the delegation? Councillor Fogel? Coming back up.
Well, you've made several references to 15-minute city, and I wonder if you could define that for us. What is a 15-minute city?
You've never heard of it?
I have heard of it, but I wonder, it obviously means something different to you than it means to me.
I won't know if it's different unless you tell me what you think a 15-minute city is. Tell me what yours is, and I'll tell you if it's different.
Ms. Smith, I think Councillor Fogel's asking the question. So could you please answer the question?
Yes, I will. So a
council?
15-minute city is working, living, providing whatever services or getting whatever service you need for your household within 15 minutes, a radius of your home, which means also entering the idea of restriction. So not going outside of that perimeter of your 15-minute allowance. I understand the conveniences of a 15-minute city, and I love that idea. I think it's beautiful. You don't have to take a bus to get to your grocery store. You don't have to take a train to get to work. It's wonderful. But on that, what else does that imply? If you take a look at other countries, in fact, it's happening. The surveillance part bothers me of the 15-minute city. So if you take a look at what's happened in the UK, where surveillance is a big deal, they've had so much vandalism, people knocking down cameras, they feel like they're under the microscope all the time, part of a 15-minute city, and that's in London.
Okay, so I mean, I can assure you that has nothing to do with anything that we've been discussing ever here. I think what we've talked about is making people to have choices about where they live and so on, and that there's proximity or the idea that things are closer, but beyond that, there's nothing.
Without penalty?
There's no talk of that. We've never discussed it. It's never been in any document. Our idea is simply for convenience if people choose to do it, but there's no restriction whatsoever. I mean, we live in a country with a Charter of Rights and Freedoms. I don't know where this comes from.
That's funny you say that. I like what you're saying. We do live in a country where we have a Charter of Rights and Freedoms, but they were totally obliterated, just totally blown up when we had the pandemic.
Well,
I really.
Okay. I just want to remind the people in the gallery, and I'm sorry I didn't mention this in my opening remarks, but the gallery, there will be no comments from the gallery, please. No clapping, no cheering, no boos. You know,
It's
whatever
really important
happens
to
be,
try and
this
stay calm.
council chamber will maintain decorum, and so outbursts from the gallery will not be tolerated.
I don't know what happened to the
We
video
want to
again.
make sure that the person who has the chair or has the podium is the person who is speaking. Okay, so thank you very much. And we have invited many delegations to come, people who registered. We're happy to hear what you have to say, and that is what is happening. So with that little digression, just so that people understand what the rules of this chamber are, that's how we're going to proceed.
Good point, Rhonda. And it's really good listening to the questions.
I just like to
because
say, there is nothing from this council ever that's going to go down that line of thinking that you have about any restrictions on any movement of any people ever. We're not doing that. We're not talking about it. The only thing we're talking about is providing people with more options for however they choose. If they choose to walk or ride their bike or drive their car or buy a truck, they can do all of those things. That's our vision, is that people will simply have more choices. And that's the end of it. And that's what mobility means to us. And all this other business about restrictions, we have no intention whatsoever of ever going down that road. I love that. So in the plan, it'll say without restrictions. I mean, we didn't put it in because we never thought anybody would think that, but there are no restrictions.
well, they should put that in, that there won't be any
Absolutely.
restrictions.
Okay.
What was I
Are there
going to
any other
say?
questions from members of council to the delegation? Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Smith.
Really good to hear the questions, and then we can formulate really good answers, because we're going to get the
Barry
same
Allan in the
questions
chamber.
every time.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm Barry Allen, 96 James Young Drive, Georgetown, Ontario. After reading the draft plan, I can't help but ask myself, $500,000 for the budget to get this forward. What is that going to cost me in tax dollars at the end of the day for all this big plan? I know you can't answer that, but it's going to be huge numbers to put new streets in, new sidewalks, whatever. So that's all I have to say. And also, is the province picking up part of this tab for the budget, for the?
Well, okay, I will answer part of that, and that is that this item was approved in the 2024 budget that was concluded by this council last year, or in January of this year. So it's part of the budget.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. Okay. Cathy Halovanic. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Keane.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, just to be clear, I think the presenter's question was also asking what the anticipated cost of all the recommended changes were going to be. He wasn't just talking about the $500,000 for the consulting. Is that not true?
Yeah.
So I don't think your question was really answered. I think you were looking at the bigger picture of what the implications of all these, potential changes are.
Good question, Keen.
Okay.
I like him.
Okay, well, if you could come to the podium, and I think I'll give a little bit of an explanation to that, and that is that we're talking about a study here, okay? That will be conducted over the course of 18 to 24 months, probably. And it will come up with a series of recommendations, and those recommendations will be very extensive. And they will follow all kinds of public consultation and input from everybody from the Chamber of Commerce to the general public to seniors, youth, whatever. So those recommendations will then be incorporated into a plan of some kind, and that plan will be costed. And because it has to do with transportation and it has to do with roads and all of those kinds of things, it will not be a small amount of money. but it will also be something that happens over several years. Okay, the projections are to 2051.
Oh, I
So
realize
it's a
that.
long, long time.
I realize that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's really good to get all of this on public record
Ms. Halovanic?
and to see which
I'm Cathy
counselors
Halovanic,
are
and
asking
I've
good
lived in
questions.
Georgetown for over 50 years. First of all, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak freely. Nothing strengthens authority as much as silence. I would like the council to please research the plan to change the title from transportation plan to mobility. These are two different scenarios. Transportation means movement of goods or persons. Mobility is to move. It can be personal, social mobility, industrial mobility. This is misleading the public and should be scrapped immediately. Mean what you say and do what you mean. I'd also like, Town, and I might add, talking about technical difficulties, actually half an hour before I came here, I had the presentation on my computer and I deleted it all. So you'll have to forgive me if I'm a little bit slower. I wanted the council to research the mobility or transportation plan or whatever it turns out to be. Does it include tracking devices, CCTV cameras, checkpoint zones of movements, district, facial? So all of these things are in the part of freedom for people of the world. So we need to look into this. And last and not least, if I can bring it up on my screen, because I've certainly had lots of technical difficulties today, I wanted to go into, would the
Mercury
council research the
retrograde.
mobility plan in any way? Would it remove, hinder, stop, permit, decrease, or negatively impact a man or woman's individual freedom and or freedom to move about the world? And I'm going to make a comment very quickly, lastly. I was driving on Miller Drive, and as you know, there's cycle lanes on Miller Drive. Those cycle lanes are so close to the vehicle, it's unbelievable. When you think about the vehicle, it's a vehicle. But when the person's riding a bike, if they make a mistake, it's their body that gets it. So I think when I first seen them, and on Miller Drive, I've studied it because my grandchildren went to the school there. That complete subdivision, you'll see one or two people using those lanes. And I would say, don't use them, they're dangerous. So that's just a comment. Thank you so much for listening.
Aw, she did a great job.
Just a minute, ma'am, there may be a question. Yeah. Well, we'll use our mics. Does anyone have a question? Okay. So, okay, thank you. Okay, is Mr. Sam LeBrier in the gallery?
So I love this.
Sir.
Afternoon. My name is Sam LeBrier, live at 34 Albert, neighbor of the mayor. I'll keep my remarks brief. I was concerned seeing mention with buzzwords like 15-minute city, timelines like 2030, which coincides a lot with United Nations goals under Agenda 2030. The language in the document that I read was similar. We seem to have some assurances that there will be no restrictions on mobility, there will be no surveillance systems set up, which is encouraging. I'd just like to remind council that Georgetown is in one of the most conservative ridings in Canada, and
Good
that
point.
I doubt highly that the people of Georgetown have asked for this. And I suspect this is not even an initiative of the council, but that this is an initiative of the unelected bureaucracy. And the unpopularity of this in Georgetown will lead to not the unelected bureaucracy being thrown out, but the council being thrown out. The anger that this will engender in Georgetown over what is sometimes called a climate emergency. And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know for sure if Georgetown or Halton Hills has specifically declared a climate emergency. Many governments in Canada have. During the pandemic, governments were empowered to use emergency legislation for all kinds of things, which they seem to have gotten away with. Time will tell. And maybe they think that they can do it with climate, but I promise you, you will not be able to scare the people of Georgetown who see the weather acting normal on a daily basis.
Excuse me, sir. Could
Into-
you, I'm not hearing the relevance here to this plan, the terms of reference for the transportation plan.
Well, the document that I read makes several mentions of climate change being the impetus of this. And I'm just stating as point of fact that if this is being brought in under some sort of climate emergency, as emergency legislation, I think that the normalization of emergency legislation is very troubling. The Canadian the Canadian Civil Liberties Association has said the same thing, that we need to end the normalization of emergency legislation.
Okay. That is nowhere in this document.
That is nowhere in the document, but I'm just saying in general, if you have declared a climate emergency, and this is part of your quote unquote strategy for dealing with climate change, it will not be tolerated well in Georgetown. And as I said, it won't be the unelected bureaucracy who pays the price, it will be the elected officials who suffer the ire of the voters, who I doubt very much have asked for any of this. So again, if there's no plans to implement any of these Agenda 2030 policies, I don't think there's anything to worry about, but the wording in the document mirrored much of what we've already read from places like the World Economic Forum and the United Nations, who have talked about smart surveillance, carbon credits, travel credits, not being able to travel outside of your zone because you'll emit too much carbon in doing so, things of that nature. And something like that, if brought to Georgetown, will not be tolerated and will be extremely unpopular. So thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you. Are
Good
there any
speaker.
questions to the delegation? All right, thank you very much.
Put it into layman's terms. Really good point if you're in a conservative riding.
There, just by the bell. All right.
The mayor survived the 5
I
delegates.
appreciate that people have come and have presented their points of view as regards this particular plan. I just want to make a couple of comments and note that the proposal for and the terms of reference that are attached to this plan are something that will ultimately be quite foundational for the town of Halton Hills. It will be a study that is going to receive input from the general public, and I would suggest that some of you here this afternoon will want to delegate to that plan. Will want to meet with the consultants when their public events are held. I would encourage you to come and present your points of view in that public consultation process so that you feel that your input is heard and that you can satisfy yourselves. I would suggest that the kinds of things that you appear to be worried about this afternoon are not going to emerge or come to fruition. I feel a little bit that people are worried about a plan that is in fact a proposal at this stage.
It's really good that the people in Halton Hills got in on this before it even went
We don't know what
to
roads
public
are going to be
consultation.
widened. We don't know what kinds of
That's a big
bike
step
lanes
forward
might need
for
to
us
be improved.
to
We
get
don't
ahead of it.
know how we are going to manage the fact that significant growth is happening in our community starting next year, and we don't know how all of those people are going to travel. We don't know what Metrolinx is going to be doing, although they've proposed that they're going to expand their services. We don't know the impact of 413 that is probably coming to our community. We don't know where those interchanges are going to be and how that's going to impact how we move around and the speed at which we're able to travel. Yes, from one municipality to the other, whether it be for work or health reasons or for school or whatever. So the terms of reference for this study identify the kinds of areas that we want to research, but it is a big job, and a lot of factors will be considered. But as Councillor Fogel said, I can assure you that there is nothing, either in this report or in any anticipated report, that is going to restrict people's movements. In fact, it will be quite the opposite. That what we want to do is make it as easy as possible to move around in our community, to make you feel safe, to be able to travel in a speedy way, and in ways that are comfortable. So that's our goal. And this study will help us put that infrastructure in place. And yes, it's going to be expensive. Put that infrastructure in place to make sure that those kinds of things happen. So I hope that I've and other comments around the table have sort of allayed that. I'm disappointed that people have I think jumped to conclusions by reading into the terms of reference as they are. But
well, when you mention climate so many times,
and to understand where we're going,
Agenda 2030,
feel good and comfortable about
people aren't comfortable with that anymore.
We live. So anyway, those are just some of my kind of concluding comments. And
when you change it from transportation to mobility,
you're welcome.
And environmental committees are talking about targeting our mobility. I wouldn't say we're jumping to conclusions. We're actually critically thinking about the documents that are going in front of our councils. So I'm not sure what's happening right now, but the audience really shouldn't be talking back to the mayor right now. We'll get better at that.
Okay.
Don't need to get kicked out.
Okay. Well, and we're going to bring this report forward. I'm going to ask for a motion to that effect. Councillor Brzezinski, thank you. And so now it will be time. The gallery, it's your turn to listen. And now council is going to discuss this report that first came forward earlier in July. And typically now it is our practice to confirm as members as council some of those items that were discussed at general committee.
So 3 councillors were opposed to it last time, and they raised really good points. So let's hear what the councillors have to say. This is where we get to see where the councillors are at. That's why we pay attention.
Now a resolution to adopt the general committee items from the previous council meeting. It has been moved by Councillor Albano, seconded by Councillor Brzezinski, that the recommendation contained in the following report from the Monday, July 8th General Committee meeting are hereby adopted as presented. And that is TPW Transportation and Planning Works Report 2024-009. So all in favor that we will bring this report forward. Okay, that is carried. Okay, so now we have this report on the floor. And Councillor Brzezinski, did you wish to speak to it?
Yes, Madam Mayor, if that's okay, through you.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to say I echo and agree with many of your comments earlier. I think it's important to remember that this is terms of reference. It's a terms of reference for a plan, and it's for a plan that the town does need as we grow and expand rapidly in the next 30 years. My concern, and the concern that I raised at the last council meeting, is mostly found on page 7 of the report under the vision and values, part 5, task 2, vision and values. As you referenced in your comments earlier, there's going to be extensive public consultation with the public, with stakeholders, everybody here. I do hope you stay involved and comment. It's fantastic to have all people of the public involved, no matter what their view is. So with that in mind, I didn't understand why we were putting vision and values arbitrarily into this document ahead of time. So rather than simply basing them on the official plan and the strategic plan, we added 4 preliminary statements, is what they're called here. And I don't think that's appropriate to put those in there ahead of time. I think we should allow the consultation process to go through and put those in after. So if I could just ask staff, would it really change the intent and substance of this document to remove those preliminary statements and allow the public and with the consultant, with our staff, with the experts to come up with an actual vision and values that represents the needs of this community?
Do we have, yeah, Commissioner Andrews?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. No, it wouldn't have an impact on the project as presented. I think the original intent was that those vision and values would be fully developed in consultation with the public and council, and they were kind of put in as sort of some initial concepts for the consultant. But no, removing them will proceed on the consistent basis with the official plan and strategic plan as the basis for developing those.
All right, thank you. And if just another comment I can make, I'll read 2 of them again so everyone is aware clearly of what they say. To encourage alternative forms of transportation, such as walking, cycling, and public transit, and reduce dependency on passenger vehicles and increase the modal share of public transit and active transportation. So cycling, walking, public transit, these are all important things, and there's many people in the community that want to see that happen. But I feel that these being a vision or statements, having them in there in the terms of reference rather than in the plan, colors this process from the get-go. And so I think we should remove those preliminary statements, and I'd put direction on the floor to that effect, removing those 4 bullet points on page 7.
Thank you very much, and I'll just get guidance from staff. If we were to kind of vote on removing those bullet points, would we then be able to vote on the final report and the final terms of reference? Yep. Okay, so we'd be able to proceed on the whole process. So that's helpful. Okay, so Councillor Brzezinski is effectively putting a amendment on the floor to remove those bullet points from the staff and a direction to staff to remove those items from the terms of reference. Okay. All right. And we're in council. Do we need a seconder? Okay. Okay. So, so with that on the floor, the clerk advised me that now we can discuss amongst ourselves that particular direction to staff removing those 4 items. Are there members of council who want to weigh in on that? Councillor Brass?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would like to address those. I totally disagree with Councillor Brzezinski on this, in that I think this report was very well thought out and very robust, and that these points don't exclude any other input from the public, but they do include all modes of transportation. And if you read the last point, consideration of the needs of all users, including pedestrians, cyclists, transit users, those with disabilities, automobiles, trucks, local residents, and visitors. These 4 points encompass a great deal of what is going to come out of this report. I think it's well said. I think it's well put. And if I think about my constituents and not my own needs and not my own thoughts, I think that they would all support these points. You know, with that, I think it'd be dangerous to omit them. I think that sets a negative tone, and I will not support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fogel?
Well, I don't understand taking these modes of transportation out when we're doing a transportation master plan. To me, it's including them is an invitation to all the people who aren't driving cars all the time to understand that transportation means them too, that it's not just about cars. If you take all this out, then it starts to look like it's back to we're just dealing with cars. And to me, that's going backwards. I mean, all the children that don't drive, all the seniors who don't drive, they're important people in our community and should be invited into the discussion about how they move around. But unfortunately, the word transportation in the past has meant cars. It means it to a lot of people. And staff in bringing this forward the way they've phrased it is intended to open it up so that people can start to consider other ways of moving around. And I mean, I'll just remind the councillor that people aren't just drivers, or they aren't just walkers, or they're not just cyclists. They're usually all of them. And they all deserve, we need to be considering all of these in our future plan to make it safe, once again, so that people have the choice of walking or cycling or transit. Transit was something that we didn't used to talk about in Georgetown and in Halton Hills. We left it out. People didn't want it. They didn't want it for many different reasons. And some of them weren't very good, but we're now in a different world, a different place, a different time, a different town, where transit is being demanded by our businesses. They need them. They need transit to get their workers to work. And we need to be considering those things when we move forward with a plan of such magnitude that's going out to 2051. Honestly, we have to look at all of these things. So why not put it here in the beginning so we all know what we're talking about and that the public is aware of what we're talking about? That's the transparency of it, instead of hiding it someplace by taking it out. So absolutely it should be in there, which is the people will come and talk and tell us what they care about. And we're going to get people talking and telling us that walking is important and that cycling is important and transit's important. And I welcome that. So I hope council will be open-minded enough to embrace the fact that we're moving into a time when we consider all modes of transportation and make them safe and available to everyone in our community.
Thank you. Councillor Hilson, I think I have you next on this list.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I have a question for staff. So we've put this amendment in, and this is a little bit different than what typically happens because it's in the council portion of the meeting. If this amendment was to fail, what happens? Do we then vote on whatever was there originally, or does it fail and then we don't have anything? I don't know if the CAO can clarify that.
Thank you. Through the mayor to the councillor. So because it's a direction to staff, if it fails, then the direction would not go forward and the section would remain as written in the current terms of reference, but then council would still vote on the resolution to adopt the report.
All right, through the mayor to staff, thank you for that clarification for myself. So as I said at the previous council meeting, when this came forward, I think that we got into a debate over whether there was too much of a focus on those alternative forms of transportation, and we are trying to build a more inclusive community to allow more people to have opportunities to get around the way they'd like to get around. And I speak as someone who didn't have a driver's license until my early 20s and relied on rides and God knows what to get around different places. So I do understand, have a bit of a sense of what that is like. And I recognize that plan is trying to provide for those people, particularly as we're on the brink of the greatest growth that we have seen in this community. And that is what we're trying to do today. And that's why it is so important that we parse something here. And I was okay with the initial plan. There was a concern that maybe it was weighted too heavily towards the alternative modes and not enough to the automobile. Councillor Brzezinski's recommendations, I don't think, half the terms as far as I can see
are talking about those pieces that regarding public consultation, and it's quite robust and has different ways that we can do that. And I think that by far is the most important thing that we can be doing, and that's what we're going to be doing. So I support this regardless. I was hoping perhaps I would consider these fairly minor amendments. I'd be happy to support this if it gets us more on the same page. Hearing some of the conversation, I'm not sure if that's necessarily going to happen, but I'll support this amendment or this direction. And if the direction fails, then I'll support whatever the original terms are, because regardless, we need to parse this. The people are coming, and this is the road system, the transportation, and it's so important that we move on that regardless. Thank you.
Councillor Keane?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was going to reserve my comments to the general discussion, but the amendment came forward, which I do support. Anything that reduces these kind of tone-setting parameters that are put in these reports, contrary to what other councils have said, it clearly leads the consultant in the direction of the end report. And despite your claims that there'll be ample, extensive consultation with the community, I know full well from previous reports, at the end of the day, the results is baked in, and the $500,000 that we're going to spend of taxpayers' money that we cannot afford, frankly, we'll end up in a ultimate report that, in my prediction, will look eerily similar to the draft proposal we see here today. So although I do support Councillor Wyszynski's amendment, and I hope it passes, I encourage everybody to vote in favor of it, it's still not enough. And I jump to the next page over, page 8. We continue having there to address Councillor Fogel's concerns. We have page 8, we have bullet points saying that we're going to be looking at, including not limited to, electric vehicle opportunities, transportation demand management. How are they going to manage transportation demand? Sustainable mobility, car sharing, bike ride, transportation equity, not equality, equity. So we're all going to have to use the same kind of transportation so that it's all, down to the lowest common denominator. Everything in this report speaks of restrictions on mobility. Our mobility rights are fundamentally constitutionally guaranteed right, Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And this is just the beginning of the inevitable result that will restrict people's movement, take away their freedoms of mobility, and I will not be supporting this report. There was no need for it. You can applaud. This is your house. You're entitled to have your say. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And so, yes, let's vote on these amendments, and then I'll propose a few other things that should be taken out of this report and replaced with primacy of the privately owned automobile as the primary source of transportation for this community. That's what's missing from this report. It needs to be included. Thank you.
Councillor Norris.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's a lot to digest here. I first want to start by thanking Councillor Wyszynski for taking the time to actually put this down and bring this amendment out. As I look at the bullet points that Councillor Wyszynski is asking to take out, I do believe that having them in this first draft is premature. We have said today that we're just beginning this process. I believe having these 4 bullet points in here are actually ahead of any of our discussions. These 4 bullet points could actually very much come in our deliberations, actually even our brainstorming. If we're just throwing things at the wall to see what sticks, I believe a lot of this would come up, but it would be part of our beginning of the process. We are ahead of that. I understand where a lot of the angst is coming from. If we're starting with this before we've even sat down as a group, even in a workshop or however this comes up, I've been listening to my fellow councilors. I understand where a lot of this is coming from. I believe that the options to the vehicle are important to a lot of people. It's something that we need to be able to look at all of them. And I think that we can look at all of that. I've heard the word open-minded in here today. I believe that we have to be open-minded to listen to all views and not be premature and having these things put in here, especially the one that talks about reduced dependency on passenger vehicles. I will be entirely supporting Councilor Rosinski's amendment, and I thank you for bringing that forward.
Thank you. Councillor Albano.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. You know, these points, vision and values are there for a reason, and that is for clarification of other things. The amendment wants to remove them and add them on later on. If they're going to be added on later on, why wouldn't we want to keep them now and just keep going with what we have? These are visions and values that I value and appreciate. And having a look at them, I don't think it changes the plan whatsoever. And therefore, I'm not supporting the amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Garneau.
Thank you. I'm having a hard time understanding how a statement like considering the needs of all users would be restrictive in any way, right? So these points are very much talking about the different ways that people travel, and specifically saying we want to include everybody in all the different ways they travel, and specifically saying we want to include people with disabilities. And I really don't understand how saying we want to be inclusive and looking at all the different types of transportation options so that everybody has a way to go to different places is restrictive in any way. The need to reduce dependency on passenger vehicles is being brought to us by the province. So the Conservative government is changing regulations around parking requirements for new developments. And so people are not going to be able to buy properties that have the same parking, like they're going down to one parking space or no parking spaces for the MTSA areas, which is, if we don't consider walking and cycling and transit as options, then we're going to have people that can't get anywhere because they don't have anywhere to park their cars. And we're already seeing that in our communities where people are having their children having to live with them for longer, and there's nowhere to park their cars. The streets can't handle it. So we really do need to look at how do people move in ways that don't involve cars. I'm not saying we're going to have a community without cars, because obviously I don't think that's ever going to happen. But I think it's also not very future forward to consider that, only focusing on cars is a good way for the future. So I am in favor of keeping these in, and I will be not voting in favor of the amendment. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to go to Councillor Ingalls, who's the first-time speaker. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And well, when I read this report, I look at this as looking at all modes of transportation, although there is an emphasis on non-automobile. I do see that. I have no trouble supporting what Councillor Rosinski has put forward. I think it will come out as we're going through the process. I look at this as being the beginning of the process. It appears to me that a lot of people are looking at it, we are in the process, or the process is halfway through or coming near the end. We're nowhere near that. This is the very beginning of the process. I am fine with taking those points out. I look at this as being, I've sat through transportation master plans. I've been here long enough to go through one or two of these in the past, and we've looked at it in the past, and what was happening in this particular time is why we change these things as we go along. Every 5 to 10 years, it's different depending on what it is. We go through recreation master plans, transportation plans on a regular basis. We change them as the world changes. And the world has changed. I think a couple of delegations may have talked about COVID, and that was a major change to us, and we're adapting to it. I don't have a problem with that. What I can't see here, and this is a point not so much to Councillor Rosinski's thing. I don't see the tie here. One of the statements that come out was restricts freedom to move around the world. I don't understand where that comes from in this document. I really have a hard time understanding where that particular statement comes from when you read through this document. But I'll just leave that comment at that. I'll take all the arrows and shots on saying so, but it's what I believe. When I read through this the first time, like I said, I look at this as being a transportation master plan, transportation mobility master plan. Well, tomato, tomato. It's transportation. We look at all modes. I have no problem taking the bullets out. I think all modes should be looked at the beginning here where we are. These may be the values that come out of this plan, but the public has taken the time to come here and let us know what they want. We definitely, or I definitely want the input when that public participation comes, and we are going through the plan. Those are important things to cut. That's the important time to let the consultants know, to let this council know again that these are your thoughts on this particular plan when the plan is actually starting to formulate a little bit here. So thanks again for coming out. But to Councillor Rosinski, I can support the points not being there, and am fine with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ingalls. Now, I think we had some second-time speakers. Councillor Rosinski?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I just want to take this opportunity to respond. And first of all, I do want to thank Councillor Norris and Councillor Ingalls. I think you're the only ones that really understand the point of this amendment. This is the vision and value statement. So 2 points. First of all, there's plenty of references in this document still talking about active transportation, the need for different kinds of transportation. We all know that that is important and is going to be a part of this plan. Not taking any of that away at all. To Councillor Brass's point and the point of this amendment, why are we putting vision and values in the terms of reference? Let the public consultation take its course and come up with terms of reference rather than what, with all due respect, Councillor Albano thinks is good. That's fine. What do the people of Halton Hills think is good? We will find out. And again, with all due respect, I think it's arrogant, I will say arrogant, to say you have a corner on what the people of, say, Ward 2 feel when a resident of Ward 2 came and delegated with a contrary opinion. So I'm sorry, but we're taking them out of the vision and values so that the public consultation can take its course and come up, and the consultant can come up with vision and values that represent the views of the people. That's all I'm trying to do here. It's really quite straightforward. I hope it gets its support. Thank you.
Councillor Norris, did you have a second comment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I did put up my hand before I heard from Councillor Ingalls and also the reply from Councillor Rosinski. My point may sound like I'm parroting what was already said, but what I'm hearing from my fellow councillors is that they want to leave this in. Hearing from Councillor Rosinski the first time and also the second time is that there is nothing to say that you're saying this will never happen. The bullet points may well come in, but that will be after we have the initial brainstorming, our initial workshop, however that unfolds. I would encourage my fellow councillors who are wanting to leave this in to take a look at this from what Councillor Ingalls just said, that we are at the very beginning and we haven't even moved on this. This document is coming in just to actually be the very first thing out of the gate. We have not had an opportunity to do anything with it. To presume that those 4 bullet points were going to be in there, I believe is wrong, because that is saying that, okay, when we go to the next steps, those four bullet points are already carved in stone. I don't believe they should be there. I would encourage my fellow councillors to hear where Councillor Rosinski is coming from on this is that he's not saying get rid of everything. He's saying, let's take everything to the first point and talk about it. And that's why I can't help but just support you and thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody. And I'll take my opportunity to weigh in and comment that I have a personal affection, I guess I would say, for some of the values that are identified here in this set of statements. That said, I think that we are embarking on a plan, and I think we do have an opportunity to hear from the public and also to build on our existing value statements. And what I see in the preceding paragraph to the 4 bullet points that we are suggesting being excluded, and it talks about the vision and values will work in conjunction with the town's official plan and the preliminary statements based on our strategic plan. So the strategic plan and the official plan, which are already in place, will form the core of the values that every member of this council unanimously agreed with. And I think that in itself will provide quite a robust opportunity for people to then have conversations about where we might go with this set of plans. I feel pretty confident that nothing that is in this list that we are excluding will be omitted. That the other narrative will ensure that we do look at all forms of transportation. And therefore, I will be supporting the proposed amendment. Okay. So I will then call the question. All in favor of the amendment as proposed, which is to exclude the 4 bullet points in referencing values for the plan. All in favor? Okay, that carries. And opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so that amendment passes. Now, Madam Clerk, do we need to go back and then approve the whole report? Okay. 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 Is that? Sure. Okay. So the process now, we have approved this amendment, okay? And we have the resolution in total on the floor, which talks to approving the terms of reference, including the amendment, and then proceeding to go out to tender an RFP for this proposal. So are there members of council who have who want to speak to the resolution as amended and the report as amended? Councillor Keane.
Thanks, Mayor. I already said a lot of what I was going to say in my previous comments, but I just wanted to, and I do appreciate the fact that the town does try to engage in extensive consultation. I still can't support this report as it's been presented because throughout this report, it relies on, it was brought up by some of the constituents. There's so many references to the climate change and how the other interests are going to impact on the recommendations of this report. And all those recommendations are going to lead to the reduction in private automobile use. And it just isn't based in reality. Wherever you live, the automobile is going to be supreme in terms of transportation, but our community in particular, we're a bedroom community. The vast majority of people in this town rely on the automobile, and to have okay, don't call it an anti-car bias, but just through absence of reference, so little mention of the private automobiles in this report, it's clearly it's leading us in a different direction, regardless of what the changes in the future may be. The car is going to remain the primary mode of transportation for this community, and it needs to be addressed in this report. And you're setting the wrong tone with it. That's why I can't support it. If you were to say to me that the master mobility plan is in addition to the master transportation plan, I could see some validity in it. But my understanding is that this, correct me if I'm wrong, this mobility master plan is going to replace the master transportation plan. And if that's the case, then it's clearly setting the transportation and mobility in an entirely different direction for this community, a radical departure from tradition. And the last comment I'm going to make, and the assurances from certain councillors and from staff we've had already that, oh no, that's certainly not the case. We can't imagine a community without automobiles. Those are just words. They will not be referenced 2 years from now when they say, oh, we're behind on our climate carbon reduction tactics. We need to immediately start restricting automobile use. What will be used is the black and white words that are in this report. And that's what we have to consider when we're deciding whether or not to support it and down the road as well. And the final comment I'm going to make, and I'm going to bring this up, is that, Mayor, you referenced the need to consider the strategic plan that we unanimously supported. And I agree with you 100%. That strategic plan should be the guiding document for the future of this town. It's the new council. Over half the councillors are brand new. We engaged in a very extensive strategic planning process, which was quite a divergence from the previous one from 4 years earlier. So I consider that new strategic plan to be the guiding document for all future master plans for all areas that we're doing. And yet I've noticed in the last two strategic plans we've had presented to us, this plan and the library master plan, both of them chose to selectively choose only 2 of the 4 priorities in our new strategic plan. I can't remember what the ones, the library ones were. I think it was the, I don't know, culture and whatever, and welcoming communities, but neglected asset management and economic development. This report, it's come to my understanding, has only also chosen 2 of the priorities in our new strategic plan. And that would be, I believe it was asset management and safe and welcoming communities. Both those reports have excluded the first pillar of our strategic plan, which is economic development. And I don't believe it's staff's right to selectively pick and choose what parts of the strategic plan suit their particular needs for their agenda. I think going forward, the strategic plan has to be considered as a whole. That means all 4 pillars, particularly economic development, needs to be included in every one of these reports. And the fact that it wasn't included in this report also makes it unworthy of support. And those are my comments, and I'll not be voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments to the report? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So I'll just let members of the gallery know that, we have finished this section, that the discussion and the deliberation. We will be proceeding with a revised terms of reference. And we have appreciated your input and look forward to seeing you again in the extensive public consultation that is going to happen through the deliberation in this study. So thank you. You're welcome to stay. I have a feeling that it might be a little dry for you, but we've finished that seg. I mean, no offense, we've got some great delegations coming up from the BIA and from our Southeast Georgetown and so forth. But just so that you're not sitting there waiting for something exciting to happen. Okay. So now I have confirmation of minutes from previous council meetings, and it has been moved by Councillor Albano. Okay. Oh, they're fine. And seconded by Councillor Rosinski that the following minutes are hereby approved. Confidential minutes of the council meeting held on Monday, July 8th, 2024. Minutes of the council meeting held on Monday, July 8th, 2024. Minutes of the statutory public meeting held on July 8th, 2024. All in favor? That's carried. And we have consent items as part of the agenda item today in section 8 of today's agenda. Does anyone wish to hold any of the memoranda or the reports? We have the operating budget status, and then we
Sorry, I was muted, everyone. Thank you for watching along with me. That was the Council of Halton Hills discussing their mobility plan. Moving forward, it was the Transportation Master Plan, and now they're calling it the Mobility Master Plan. Hopefully you can hear me now. I was just saying, I wanted to say great job to the men and women in Halton Hills who were watching their agenda and saw that this was on the agenda and went in and filled the room and did 5 delegations. You can watch that if you watch the replay. And really great to see the councilors. I think Councilor Rosinski last meeting, he was all in favor of the plan. And I think that it really makes a difference when the people start showing up, start voicing their concerns. The other councilors spoke up. Initially, there was 3 that spoke up against it. So we can see how we're amplifying and multiplying the voice of common sense and reason and pointing out the connections between these master plans and the bigger agenda that's taking place, and taking our opportunity in this country to, we're watching these big agendas come down and they're landing on the ground in the local councils. And those councilors are the ones who get to decide what words, like Councilor Keene said, it's the black and white words on the paper that are going to matter in 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years. So I'm really excited to see that and to share that example with everyone, and really grateful for the people in Keene. So thank you for watching. Thank you for the comments. Look for an article going out on Kickley's Substack. It's going to be one of the foundational reports that will be referenced in our national report against all of these UN directive programs, in particular the Partners for Climate Protection program. I do see that as the foundational program that is bringing in the climate action plans and affecting our strategic plans and our official plans, and creating all of these extra plans, and bringing all of this other bigger agenda in. So sign up for that, and you're going to start seeing some cool reports going forward. And just know that when you see a report going forward from Kickley Substack, that is also going to all the elected representatives all across the country. So with that, I'm going to take a little bit of a break and get back to writing. So have a great day, everyone, whatever day it is, probably Monday. And we'll talk to you all soon. Next time something awesome happens, I'll share it. And remember, if you're in the Simcoe area on September 8th, I will be there. Did I write down the address? The Ontario Landowners Association has started a new chapter in Simcoe County. You can go to the Midland Community Hub webpage. That is mchweb.ca. .ca or .com and get all the details in their upcoming events. And I'm going to be there. There'll be a bunch of other speakers, and we're going to launch our Kickley campaign in Simcoe County. That is in my original hometown. So I'm looking forward to going back there and to bringing this back home where we all should be. So really focusing on our actual circle of influence is where our activism and advocacy is going to have the most impact. So we saw it there in that meeting. I wish that there were more amendments. I think Councillor Keane, he had mentioned that he was going to make more amendments after, and he didn't. So it's okay. We're all people, and we're not going to do it all perfectly. But if I was in that area, I would reach out to those good councillors and have a good discussion about that master plan and the kinds of feedback that the council needs to receive from the public in order to ensure that it is truly a local master plan and not a global master plan for Halton Hills. All right, love you all. Have a great day. Bye for now. Thanks for watching, everyone.